let's do a full sewing room clean out today, getting it ready for all of our sewing in the new year. Happy New Year! So it is a brand new year, which means it is time to organize. Yes, it is now 2024, and as you can see, the sewing room was hit by Christmas. We just have fabrics everywhere in boxes. The table is messy. There's a lot going on. And so today's video, we are going to be organizing. I'm going to give you some tips along the way that I use for organizing, as there's just a lot. And as you could imagine, this room is actually pretty small that I sew in. You have this portion, and then my cubbies, there's a closet, and then the dress forms. But the floor itself, like, there's not a ton of room, and this room is used for other purposes besides just sewing and crafting. So I do have to try to keep it organized a little bit, or else it just ends up being way too much stuff. I'm gonna try to clean up some. I will give you some tips and tricks as we go along, in case you also trying to have a fresh year, clean sewing room. We can do it together. So let's get started. So the first thing I did was organize everything that was in my closet, because I need to put fabrics away. I have my fabrics in storage bins, and then I have them organized so that the fabrics I do not use that often are in the bottom, and then the bins go up as it is fabrics that I use more and more often. I go through this about once, twice, 3 times a year so that I can start to take out fabrics that I may be using more, and this just allows me to make sure that I'm not forgetting about any fabrics that I have. I can go through and throw away anything or donate anything that I know that I'm not going to be using, and then I can put everything back away. So in doing this, I found that I did have some fabrics that I'm going to be using for different projects and things that I had forgotten about, and then I found some more Christmas fabrics that I'm going to be putting in a different spot. I also got a mystery box of fabrics. I did a whole video on it, and I really want to figure out how to organize these and get them either into other fabric bins or just make sure that I know what I want to do with them. So the next step was I had these tiny little bins, and I use these smaller bins to organize my notions, ribbons, threads. And I found that over the course of the last few months, I would just throw things in here to try to make it a little easier for myself. But now it comes time to, I need to go through, organize it, make sure that there's no trash in here, and figuring out, specifically, do I want to keep any of these? So these bins are also where I store my fabric swatches if I ordered any. Really, just anything that I have that is small at some point will probably be put into one of these bins. So I like to try to organize it, and so that I know what I have on hand, what I do not need to get more of, and what I do need to get more of. As you can see, some of these also contain different fabrics that I've gotten, that I bought them at a point where I didn't have the rest of my fabric bins taken out, so I'll put them in here just as like a quick storage. So it's all just about organizing, going through, figuring out what I need for the new year, what I don't need, and then making sure that I have all of my trash taken care of. So next, I also like to keep a bag of just fabric scraps, and a lot of the times what I'll do with this is I'll put items that I don't necessarily want to throw away because it's still a large fabric scrap, but I'm not quite sure what to do with it. So as you can see, this bag is that bag for me, so I have a bunch of different fabric scraps in here, and what I'm doing is just going through, seeing what can I do with these scraps, what do I want to use them for. If it's a really small scrap and I don't necessarily want to throw it away, I will actually use it for stuffing, for like a poof or something, or a pillow that we're not necessarily going to be sleeping on. And then my last step is that I go through my threads. So I like to keep threads that I use pretty often in a little coffee mug, and then threads that I'm no longer using, I have a whole little container that I will store my threads in. So just organizing all of this, making sure that everything is neat, and trying to make sure there's no trash in here, there's nothing that doesn't belong in here. Sometimes buttons get thrown in here, and I do try to keep all of my buttons together in their own separate bin, just so that I'm not looking for them. So after doing all this, I had a whole empty bin that I was able to put some fabrics that I have ideas for how I'm going to be using them into its own thing. I was also able to hang up a sign that my friend had gotten me for my channel, just so that it is now up on the wall, so it'd make it a little bit more of a professional look. So with all of that done, it was now time to focus on cleaning up the floor and the table, as things were quite a mess, as I ended up using some velvet and that just got everywhere. So for this, I highly recommend, whenever you are done using a very messy fabric, to clean up and around your serger, to really give your serger the maintenance that it needs. For example, for mine, I go through
try to clean out all the dust, try to make sure that there's no large pieces of fabric anywhere, and then I do oil it down. I do clean up the area around it so it can have a nice fresh start for the new projects. Now it was time to deal with my cubbies, and I was really happy with how my desk was turning out. I was even able to find this little eyeglass holder, and I'm actually going to be using this to store some notions, specifically some extra sewing needles that I had, so I have them on hand in a very easy to find place. So now for my cubbies, what I do is I go through and try to organize these about once or twice a year as well. I normally throw little pieces of fabric, little ribbons in here when I'm done using them to try to clean up, and then I need to clean up all of those at some point. So after doing all of those steps, it was a very productive clean out, and I was able to get a lot done with all the organizing and making sure that all the trash from 2023 is now gone. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Let me know if this helped you with your own organization, and I'll see you next time.